Hello you lovely lot and welcome to a new video. Today I have another Patreon monthly illustration, and for April's illustration my patrons voted for me to draw my OCs as Animal Crossing characters. And this was a pretty close poll. The second place was Ez drawing his eyeliner using a knife as a guide, and that idea was also a lot of fun, and there was one vote between that and this one in the end, but I am happy that this one won because I thought it would be a really fun challenge and I've been really enjoying Animal Crossing. So New Horizons is my first Animal Crossing game. I hadn't played any of the others previously. I'm not particularly sure why. I think it's partly because when I look into a series and I realise there's already quite a few games out, I tend to think, well, there's a lot to catch up on, that's a lot of hours, I don't play games that much so I won't bother. And also I just wasn't sure if it would be something that I would enjoy. And I know I've got a lot of friends who like it, but I just somehow never looked into it. And then when New Horizons was coming out, so many people were talking about it, and I heard a lot of people saying that it would be a good starter game, so I decided that I was going to give it a go, and I pre-ordered it the day before it came out. And it was the best decision in the end, and I'm really, really happy that I got it. However, unfortunately, as much as I would like to have a truly lovely aesthetic island like my friends, my island is an absolute garbage heap because I've discovered that I'm just as bad in games at keeping a place nice as I am in real life. So nothing really has its place, there's just kind of stuff everywhere and it's just multiplying and I don't know what to do with it. So at some point I want to try and make my island into a nice, pleasant place to live with nice paths and fountains and parks and places to hang out, but at the moment it's literally just a wasteland with too many trees. So it's not fantastic at the moment, but it's getting there. So for this piece I decided to take a bunch of my D&D characters because they're the ones that I think people know the most, and they're the ones that I had sort of immediately thought of the moment that this idea was mentioned. And the biggest challenge for me in this piece was creating that sort of hybrid between the Animal Crossing style and my style, and keeping them recognisable as my characters. Originally I didn't give them hair, but then they just looked really weird, so I then ended up giving them hair to make them more recognisable as those characters. So for a couple of them I did add little extra features like extra horns on Vespertine and Saran just to make them more recognisable as those characters, but mostly I tried to stick to kind of pre-existing concepts of those animals. So as for the characters that we have here, along the top left we have Cadence, who in terms of D&D is actually a tiefling rogue, and I've drawn her here as a snooty wolf, and I picked wolf because she can be quite intimidating and sly, but she can also be quite gentle when she wants to be. And I made her snooty because Cadence kind of has that persona where she seems to be looking down on everyone, whether she is or not, that's how she comes across. Next we have Brandy, who is my dwarf ranger, and I've drawn her as a cranky rabbit. And cranky just because Brandy can be pretty stubborn and a little bit grumpy when you catch her on a bad day. Rabbit, I'm not particularly sure why I chose that, apart from that she is a hill dwarf and I just was thinking of rabbits and hills and burrows, I guess. And I just thought it suited her and I thought she looked really sweet with the ears. Then there's Taran, who is a cranky goat, and again, Taran is stubborn and can be bad-tempered, and same with the goat. I just thought goats are stubborn and they'll eat anything, and that's just Taran to a T, so I figured that I would make him into a goat, and he's got the little broken horn to reflect his broken antler in-game. So even though he has antlers as a wildling, which is what he is normally, I thought I'd make it a goat just for the sort of stubbornness aspect. Next up we have Boots, and this is one of my newest D&D characters, and this is actually my first finished illustration of him, so I haven't finished one of him as his normal self, I've only drawn him as an Animal Crossing deer. So I've made him into a lazy deer. He's not necessarily lazy, he's actually quite hard-working in a way, but his sleep pattern is all messed up, so during the day he's really tired and he kind of slouches around and looks really sleepy. And I picked deer because he's a furbolg, so Boots is a furbolg Circle of Stars druid. I forgot to say Taran, but he is a wildling barbarian, and wildling is one of my custom races in my D&D campaign. So Boots is a furbolg druid, and he works in a library, and he loves books, hence he's holding a book. And I made him into a deer because even though furbolgs are kind of cow-based generally, he's got those little nubby horns, and I just thought a deer suited him. Then at the bottom we have Kit, who is my Amali rogue, and Amali is a custom race created by a couple of my D&D friends, Moonlaw and Dehusky. I think that's how you say his Twitter handle, but his name is Niels. And Amali are a race of humanoid people with animal features. So I had to make Kit into a cat, so he's now Kit Cat. And he is just a normal cat, I think I decided, because I didn't think he was quite at the level of Peppy, but I didn't think any of the others quite suited him, so I just went for normal. Then we've got Reed next to him, who is a Peppy squirrel, and I disregarded the thing about certain villagers having different personalities depending on their gender. I just didn't really get that, so I just decided to abandon that idea. So Reed is a Peppy squirrel, and in reality Reed is a halfling fighter. So they're very small, and they're a little tough cookie, but they're very cheerful, and I love them so much, and I just wanted to draw them being happy and singing with Kit, because I think they would get along. Next we have Saran, who is half tiefling, half Atlassi, which is another custom race created by my friends, and so he's generally just a big fluffy cat man who is a monk, but he's very gentle and he's very sleepy, and so I made him into a lazy tiger. And I thought about a lion, but I just thought with his markings that tiger would suit him more, and I like how he turned out because he's got this big mane of hair, and again, could have gone for lion. I just visually thought the tiger suited him more, and he was one of the most challenging ones to draw, but I'm pretty happy with how he turned out. Next we have Vespertine, who I made into a snooty sheep. I chose sheep because he has those curling ram horns in his normal design, and then I added a couple of little extra horns just to make it look a little bit more like him. And also he kind of looks deceptively soft, so I thought that worked well with a sheep. And Vespertine is holding a book because, again, like Boots, he loves his books, he loves studying, he's a wizard, he is always seeking out new knowledge. And then next to him we have Ez, who I think is my favourite on this piece. And I made Ez into an alligator, so thank you to my friends for their suggestions, because when I first asked about this, and I was new to Animal Crossing and didn't know any of the types of animals, a lot of my friends suggested ideas. And I think it was Georgia that suggested Ez as an alligator, so thank you, because he's green and he's got those little tusks. So I really like how he turned out. He was probably the hardest to draw, even harder than Saran. So Ez is normally a half-orc sorcerer, so I really wanted to get those teeth in, and I found an opportunity to add some elements of his story within the campaign as well. So I discovered that the blue emperor butterflies in Animal Crossing are the same species as the blue morpho butterfly, which is the name of Ez's missing ship that was stolen from him. And he's spent a lot of time trying to pursue this ship, so I decided that I would draw him trying to catch this blue butterfly in a net. And then also in either session 1 or session 2 of the campaign, I can't remember which, he nearly died via a swarm of spiders, and so I couldn't resist adding that little tarantula just behind him, sneaking up on him, and Vespertine has spotted it, but even though obviously Vespertine and Ez have never met because they're in different campaigns, I feel like they wouldn't like each other. Especially Vespertine wouldn't like the way that Ez uses magic. He would think it was too tacky and flashy and just doesn't look good. And that's why I made Vespertine snooty as well, is because he tends to judge people very harshly, especially on their use of magic, and looks down on them. So I decided that Vespertine would be seeing this about to happen, and he's just not going to do anything. He's surprised, but he's just going to let it play out. So Ez is about to meet an untimely end, unfortunately, but I'm really happy with how that turned out, and I really like the tarantula. I do not like spiders in real life, but I'm pretty happy with that tarantula. Also, it took me a long time to get the hang of catching tarantulas, so I feel his pain there. I tried to stick to the style of Animal Crossing with regards to the background as well, so kind of simplifying it and sticking to similar bright colours, and I added in the trail in the sky that you get when one of the seaplanes takes off, and I really like that detail that when one of your friends has left your island you can see the trail in the sky from the plane. I just think that's really neat, and so I just wanted to add that in and make some nice fluffy clouds and try and make a background that wasn't too detailed but looked cheerful and fit to the theme of the game. So this was pretty challenging in the end. I think it's probably been the monthly illustration that I found the most challenging so far out of all the ones that my patrons have suggested for me, but I did really enjoy it and I'm happy with how it turned out, and just looking at it makes me happy. And I feel like that reflects how Animal Crossing makes me feel, because I've genuinely been having such a good time. It's been so nice to just sort of pick up and play for a little while without pressure. I mean, I'm kind of putting pressure on myself with being worried about how bad my island looks, but in terms of how the actual game is set out, like being able to take things at your own pace and just do as much or as little as you want on your island, I just really like it, and it's very wholesome. And I think honestly it's come at the best possible time, seriously. So I really enjoyed working on this, and I'm grateful to my patrons for always giving me these fun, self-indulgent ideas to work on. So are you playing Animal Crossing right now? Tell me about your island in the comments if you want. You could tell me if it has a theme, what kind of villages you've got. I'd love to hear. So thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!